Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. Beth felt better than she had in a while. She had a short night, but John was hospitable, and the bacon and coffee she had just eaten for breakfast was delicious. Now she leaned back on the sofa and relaxed. It was her third day at John's, and everything was going well. Then John's phone started beeping, as if he was receiving text messages. He honked a few times, and Beth thought it might be important. Beth took her phone off the charger and opened it. John didn't have a password on it. He said he had nothing to hide. Beth looked through the text messages, and there were some new ones from Cindy, John's wife, who was in Mexico doing a ministry project for their church. The first message was, "Carol told me that you're sleeping with some fool. You bastard. Well, how do you like it when the shoe is on the other foot?" The rest were photographs of a woman she thought was Cindy, even though they had never met. In the photos, Cindy was making love with two men at once. Just at that moment, the doorbell rang. Beth opened the door and saw a woman in a dress and a uniformed policeman. They squeezed in. The woman said, "I'm from CPS. We're taking you out of this house for your own safety and sending you to a temporary foster home." Beth started to back away, but a policeman and a woman from the Criminal Investigation Department grabbed her by the arms and dragged her to the door. Beth resisted, but they kept dragging her. Then John ran out of the bedroom, screaming, "Let her go. What the hell are you doing?" When he rushed to the scene of the fight, the policeman hit him with a taser. Beth screamed constantly, but eventually managed to shout out, "CPS can't pick me up. I'm an adult. Let me go." The CPS lady looked shocked, and the policeman let Beth go. Freeing one hand, Beth punched the CPS woman right in the nose. Then she turned to the policeman and asked, "Why are you trying to kidnap me?" John was recovering from the stun gun. He jumped up and rushed at the policeman, knocking him to the floor. The policeman managed to pull out a pistol and fire, hitting John in the shoulder. That's when two more police officers broke into the house and handcuffed John and Beth. Beth said, "These people tried to kidnap me. That fool from CPS said she would take me to a foster home. I'm an adult. I think they were going to sell me." John tried to help, but another cop shot him. John said, "I need an ambulance right now." An ambulance was called when the police outside heard a shot and arrived a couple of minutes later. The paramedic took one look at the situation and screamed, "What the fuck? What kind of idiotic asshole shackled this man's hands behind his back when he was shot in the shoulder? Don't they have an IQ test for cops? Take off the handcuffs now." One of the cops rolled John over onto his sore shoulder to remove the handcuffs. John screamed in pain. Beth screamed, "Stop hurting him. My mother is a lawyer, and she will make you all pay. Why did you break in here at all? CPS? I'm an adult." The woman standing by the door grinned. "I called them. I saw what was happening here while this man's wife was serving the Lord." Beth told John, "Find out her name." Two more policemen entered the house, this time in plain clothes. One of them said, "What's going on here?" Beth said, "This fool and this animal policeman tried to kidnap me, and when my father tried to help, they shot him. I want them arrested." The policeman said, "Take off her handcuffs." He turned to the lady from the CPS, whom he recognized. "Why are you here?" "We got a call that the child was in danger and a man was threatening her with a gun. So we came to pick her up, and then all hell broke loose." Beth screamed, "I'm an adult, asshole, and this is my dad." Paramedics wheeled John out on a stretcher. Beth ran up to him. "Is he going to be all right?" "He should be fine in a few days." "Officers, can she go with him in the ambulance?" The guys in plain clothes said yes at the same time. Then they told everyone to sit down. One went out the door and caught a woman retreating across the street. He brought her back and took statements from everyone. A day later, John and Beth were in the hospital room talking to a man in a suit. He said, "I have copies of all the statements. The lady from CPS is in the process of being fired. The policeman who shot you with a stun gun has been suspended from his post for the duration of the investigation." The woman, Carol, admitted that she called them, not really knowing what was going on. "She may be accused of something, but we're not sure what it is yet." Beth looked very serious and hugged John. "She did something else, Dad. She told Cindy that you were sleeping with some fool. I was just looking at your phone when this shit hit the fan. I'm really sorry, Dad." John looked at the photos and tears began to flow. Well, that's it then. Do the paperwork. As you know, I have a solid prenuptial agreement. Have her serviced at the airport when she lands on Friday. If you can, get an injunction. There's no coming back from this. Also, find out who we can sue and do it. To begin with, Carol slandered Beth and me. Jim, the lawyer, said, "Oh, it's already in development. We're suing her, the CPS woman, the cop who shot you, the CPS, and the police department. We're also suing the cops who handcuffed you too. The paramedic is dying to witness it. Has your security system been turned on?" John smiled. Of course. All this is in the cloud. I need to take some painkillers and rest. Thank you, Uncle Jim. A few hours later, Valerie, John's personal secretary, came to inform him about business matters. Don't worry, John. I've contacted the project managers, and we'll sort everything out until you can get back to work. Today, we have received the final permits for the Ironwood project, so we will start building standard houses. Abe says we can be ready to start selling in 10 weeks. I'm already setting up a trading schedule. You must create a package for this division. There should be big bonuses for everyone. Abe says if you don't agree, I should hit you on the shoulder. By the way, I may need help soon. Now we have 4 divisions working, and 2 more are waiting for permits. I was sorry to hear about Cindy. We held a vote in the office, and now she has a nickname. The nominations were ex-wife and cheater. Gee, thanks, Valerie. You always know what to say to cheer me up. Well, maybe I'm getting divorced, but at least I'm not poor. There is a clause about adultery in our marriage contract, and this is important. I'll have to send Uncle Jim a box of steaks. Maybe when everything settles down, my daughter Beth will want to be your assistant. Okay, boss, I'll take care of it. I have to get back to the office. Get well. 3 days later, Cindy got off the plane and headed to the baggage claim area. When she got there, 2 men approached her. Hi, Uncle Jim. I think my cheating husband didn't want to meet me face to face. What a coward. I don't believe in divorce, but I'm not sure our marriage can survive this. Jim handed her a large envelope. Well, I'm sure that's impossible, Mrs. Cork. You have been served. The second man was filming a video. Jim continued. Besides, there's a restraining order in the envelope. You can't get closer than 500 feet to your house or John. Copies of the photos that you kindly sent are in the envelope. John submits an application under the article Adultery. There is also a letter from John. The prenuptial agreement will be 100% respected. As Jim was leaving, Cindy screamed. He can't do that. He was the first to cheat. Jim just turned around and said, read the letter and do not violate the restraining order, otherwise you will end up in jail. Cindy was in shock. She collected her luggage and used the free shuttle service to the nearest Hilton hotel. When she tried to rent a room, none of her cards worked. Finally, she successfully used her debit card. Then she went to her room, took out some booze from the mini fridge, and sat down to read the letter. Cindy, I suppose you were shocked to be served at the airport. You should have expected this. After all, you really cheated on me with 2 men at the same time. And then you sent me photos. Beth showed them to me when I was in the hospital after being shot. I hope to be home by the time you read this, but I don't know for sure. Beth was a little bruised, but she's fine. Besides this divorce suit, many other people have problems. Lives are ruined. And all because of you and your smug friend Carol. Carol not only told you that I was cheating, which, by the way, wasn't the case, she also called the CPS on Beth, which resulted in me being tasered and injured, and many careers were ruined. We're suing her, just so you know, along with the idiot from CPS, the cop who shot me, and several others, including the 2 men who used you. By this time, Cindy was crying and was practically in shock. She read on. I think I should introduce Beth. You may remember when we met, I told you that my last girlfriend, Marcia, dumped me in a very public and disgusting way. It turns out that because of this, she couldn't come to me and tell me that she was pregnant. So in the end I had a daughter, whose existence I never suspected. Beth, my daughter, finally convinced her mother to tell her who her father was. A few days after you left, she knocked on my door. I was so happy to find out about her. We were going to wait until you came back to talk about it, because these are the kind of things that have to be decided face to face. I know you'd like Beth. Then your friend Carol decided that I was having an affair with my daughter, and sent you a couple of photos of Beth and me hugging. Carol took these photos through our windows, so she was also accused of peeping. That's when you decided to take matters into your own hands, or should I say in your mouth. Anyway, on the advice of my lawyer, I paid off and canceled all our credit cards. I left $2,500 in my checking account, as it is stipulated in the prenuptial agreement. Jim says that with the photos and your text, divorce is a sure thing. Oh, and you're spreading poison. I was talking to the pastor when he visited me here at the hospital. He recognized the two men in the photographs. I think their return home was not exactly what they had hoped for. Spouses just don't understand these things. Both wives filed for divorce, and you provided evidence in favor of their claims. So, a lot of lives are in the shit. I hope you guys did a lot of good things on this trip because you left massive destruction here. I expect that next time we will meet in court. Your mother has your car, and she knows what's going on. She was a little shocked by the photos, but agreed to take you in if you need somewhere to stay. At least we don't have children. However, the guys you made love to have children, and now they will only see their children during court-authorized visits. If you decide to return to our church, you will probably find it very cold around. By my count, you and Carol have ruined the lives of at least a dozen different people. Have a nice day, John. The people in the next room called the front desk. A couple of minutes later, there was a knock on the door. When she didn't answer, the manager used a universal key card to enter the room. She sat down on the floor and hugged Cindy, saying softly, "What's the matter, honey? Tell me what's going on." The letter was lying on the floor next to Cindy. She handed it to the manager. She was holding Cindy in her arms and reading a letter. "Oh dear, I read about it in the newspaper. I think it was a pretty shitty show. It looks like it's only going to get worse. Let's get you on the bed. I'll clean your room tonight and send some food upstairs. You need to eat. I'll also ask someone to check on you a few times. Get some rest." When she left, she locked the mini fridge. She didn't want to let Cindy get drunk. John was discharged on Saturday morning and returned home in a rented hospital wheelchair. They left him in the living room. He had a cast on his arm and shoulder that was supposed to stay there for a while. Beth took care of him, and her mother joined her. Mom explained how a month later she realized that leaving him was a huge mistake and has regretted it ever since. She had never been married, and Beth said she rarely went on dates. She and John were making up for lost time. At about 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. Beth opened it. It was an elderly woman. "Can I help you with something?" The woman said, "Please don't shoot the messenger. I'm Cindy's mom. She wanted to come by herself, but she has a restraining order. May I come in?" John said to let her in. When she came in, John asked, "How are you doing, Mom? You know I've always liked you. I'm sorry this came between us. Thanks for stopping by." Jean smiled. "I was afraid you'd shoot me. I'm glad you don't hate me. How are you doing, and could you introduce me?" John smiled back. "I don't hate you, Jean. This is my daughter Beth and her mother Marcia. Everything is moving for the better for me. My shoulder hurts, but I have pills. Physically, I'm fine. Psychologically, not very much." Jean turned to Beth and Marcia. "Thank you for helping him. This is a difficult time for everyone. Cindy is a real wreck. Although Carol started this disaster, Cindy realizes that most of the damage is on her. She has no excuses for what she did. She really doesn't understand it herself. She read on the internet that some people call it getting into Ray's Martian cheater. I can't even imagine what she was thinking." Marcia said, "I'm a family law lawyer. I see this kind of thing too often. There is never a logical or reasonable explanation. If people were always logical and reasonable, such things would never happen. My colleague calls it an instant idiotic attack. Such a person always feels terrible after that, but it's usually too late by then. Many times, marriages seemed fine until the explosion occurred. Then there was nothing left but a fireball. It happens so fast and without warning, so there's no time to stop it. John was asleep, and then, boom, the CPS cops, the injury, and the photos. His world exploded in a matter of seconds. He didn't stand a chance. I understand, and so does my daughter. She received a text from her friend and made an instant, terrible decision. At that moment, she was driven by anger. Anyway, I just came by to pick up some of her stuff. Can I? Marcia stood up. Beth, Stay with John. I'll help Jean. John, can she use your suitcases? Of course, they're on the top shelf in the dressing room. As soon as they went upstairs, John asked, Beth, what happened to your mom? She acts like she was in love with me, but she dumped me anyway. Plus, she did it screaming in public, calling me all the disgusting names. She's so cute now. Is she planning on trying to break my heart again? Considering the current situation, I'm a little afraid to tell you. Okay, but I can't trust her. Maybe then she should leave. Beth began to pace the room. She started to say something a couple of times, but then she stopped. Finally, she stopped by the bed. Good. Like that. Her roommate saw you with another woman. Mom got mad and yelled at you. After that, you tried to call her a couple of times, but she didn't answer your calls. A couple of weeks later, she and her roommate were walking, and the roommate pointed out the woman she thought you were cheating on your mom with. Mom recognized this woman. It was your sister. Mom tried to call you that night, but the room was no longer in service. A couple of days later, she came to your house, and a neighbor told her that you had dropped out of school, transferred and moved. Where? She didn't know. So, it was exactly the same as now. She heard that I was cheating and blew up my world without bothering to check. Great. How was I lucky enough to get in touch with two such women? I'm sorry, Dad. Although it wasn't exactly the same. No revenge lovemaking. In fact, Mom told me that she had never been with anyone else at all. Neither before nor after her tantrum. You're the only guy she's ever been with. And yes, she still loves you. John was speechless. A few minutes later, Marcia and Jean came downstairs with 3 suitcases and a garbage bag. Marcia said, her clothes are in the suitcases, and her things like shampoo and cosmetics are in the bag. Is this normal? John waved them towards the door. After Marcia helped Jean dive, she returned. I should probably leave. I just wanted to check on Beth. Okay, and look at you a little bit too. John took her hand. Why are you doing family law? It seems to be a sad specialty. Well, I've made a few mistakes myself, and from time to time I get a chance to help someone avoid such mistakes. So you're here to keep me from making a mistake? Unfortunately, no. I'm only here to help, since you're still in treatment. Plus, some lady across the street said you were having an affair with my daughter. Secondly, in order for me to help, I should have been with your wife a week or so ago. Alas, I wasn't there, and she went too far. If all she'd done was make a complete fool of herself by yelling at an innocent person in a public place, maybe there was something I could do to help her. An interesting comparison. Could you explain in more detail? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I was told that you were cheating on me. I'm sure you remember how I left you. You tried to call me, but I didn't answer. Then I found out that this woman was your sister. I tried to call you back then to apologize, but your number was no longer working. I went to your house, but you were gone. I've regretted it every day since. Now I can finally say how sorry I am. Okay, that makes sense. If you thought I was having an affair with my sister, I understand why you could imagine I was having an affair with Beth. Please don't make fun of me. If Beth didn't tell you, I never stopped loving you. I'm sorry again. I shouldn't have said that. You are married. John was smiling now. Not for long. Cindy's already been served, so we're legally separated, as you probably know. Beth also said that you haven't made love in a long time. Maybe we can fix this when my divorce is final and if we're both still interested. Marcia was smiling now. If my dear daughter told you that, she probably also said that I've never had a bed with anyone but you. If you ever need me, I'm always at your service. Besides, since I've been faithful to you all these years, you probably understand that I will never cheat on you again. John needs to take some pills and go to bed. Mom, you're going to help until John gets better. Help him get settled, and I'll see you in the morning. The next morning found John and Marcia talking. Marcia told him, I lost touch when you transferred to another school, but I never forgot what I did to a wonderful guy. I've always wondered where you are. I thought if I could find you and apologize, maybe you'd forgive me. After I graduated from law school and started working, I told my story to my senior partner. He said he would help and assigned the detective our firm used to track you down. The detective found you without any problems. He also found out that you were married. That's when I vibrated. My senior partner had a friend from law school with a firm in your area. He got me a job there. Well, here. Since then, I've been working at a firm a few miles away. I became a partner a few years ago. From time to time, I managed to catch a glimpse of you. I didn't want to hurt you anymore, so I never contacted you. When Beth turned 18, I finally relented and told her who you were. It really hurt you again. It turns out that I foolishly ruin your life all the time. John interrupted her. Well, my Uncle Jim Pearson doesn't think so. He told me that he met you in court 7 times, and he only managed to win once. He's pretty smart. So if you've almost always won, you can't be stupid. Yes, Jim Pearson is a good lawyer, but the times I ran into him, he wasn't on the right side of the divorce. I didn't know he was your uncle. I'm pretty good as a lawyer. Where I get stupid is in everything that has to do with you. A week later, Marcia was in her office when her dad called her. Cindy Cork is here. She wants to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. Show her out. The assistant led Cindy inside, closing the door behind them. She motioned Cindy to a chair by the table, and she sat down on the sofa. Cindy said, "Thank you for seeing me. Why are you here, Mrs. Cork? I need your help. People tell me that you are the best at reconciliation. I was really stupid, and I really don't think I have any chance, but I don't want to lose my husband. Do you know who I am? Yes, you are Marcia Campbell. I talked to some people where I work, and they said that you are the best divorce lawyer in town, and you also try to get people to reconcile whenever possible. Well, Mrs. Cork, it's all true. I think I'm the best. However, one important point was missed in your research. I'm also Beth's mom." Cindy lost consciousness and slowly slid to the floor. When she came to, her head was in Marcia's lap, and Joan, the assistant, was wiping her face with a cold, damp cloth. Marcia smiled at her. "Welcome back, Cindy. I think you were tired, so you fell asleep for a few minutes. I don't usually have that kind of influence on people. There's ice in this rack. Let us take care of you a little bit. Would you like some water?" There was a straw in the bottle, and Cindy took a couple of sips. "Why are you so kind to me? When you said you were Beth's mom, I panicked." "Thank you." Joan smiled a little. "Yes, usually when people lose consciousness, we undress them and leave them in the alley. Marcia has decided to make an exception for you. You're very pretty, so we can sell you to a Colombian brothel." Marcia put her hand over Joan's mouth. "Joan, stop it. I'm sorry, Cindy." Joan has a very strange sense of humor, but she's usually quite sweet. We undid a couple of buttons and a belt. But why such a shock? My ugly face usually makes people choke rather than faint. I just know what you must be thinking about me. I'm usually not as stupid and terrible as I was just recently. I lost my husband and hurt a lot of people. Deep down, I know I can't bring John back, but I want to fix the situation somehow and maybe break up as friends. I've hurt a lot of people. Besides, you are very far from being ugly. I think I can get up now. Good. Sit back in the chair. I need to make a phone call." Marcia took out her cell phone and pressed the speed dial button. "Beth, how is John?" "Okay." "Give him the phone." "Okay." "John, how are you?" "Well, take a pill. You'll need it." "I have a request. I'm here with Cindy. She came to my office not knowing that I was Beth's mother. Anyway, she's resigned to the fact that you won't take her back. But I want you to remain friends. You like her mother. I heard you call her mom. You have a story. Cindy is not a danger. Please call your uncle and ask that the ban be lifted." "This is not necessary. You are welcome. Please do." "Well, thank you. I'm inviting her to dinner. See you soon." "You're coming to dinner tonight, aren't you, Cindy?" I suppose." "Okay, 7 o'clock. You can meet Beth." Meanwhile, John was staring at the phone as if it was about to turn into a snake. What the hell? Marcia and Cindy are friends now, and she invited Cindy to dinner. I think I'm in big trouble. Do you know what your mom is up to? I think she wants to make sure that you and Cindy are really over before Mom tries to move in with you. Mom actually has a moral. Otherwise, she would have tried to do it many years ago. Good. Cindy and I are definitely over. She freaked out and went crazy over the message and didn't even try to check if it was true. In fact, in our relationship, she took the neighbor's word for it. I would spend the rest of my life wondering when it would happen again. Obviously, she had neither trust nor respect for me. Tell me how this differs from what Marcia did. Okay, your mom didn't make love to 2 guys in retaliation, But she broke up by yelling at me in a deliberately public place because a friend said she saw me with another woman. She was ready to leave me without any evidence at all, and to do so with the help of public humiliation. Again, no trust and no respect. I understand your point of view, but let me ask you this. If mom came to you a few days after her mistake, would you take her back? Yes, her mistake was similar, but her reaction was much less insane. Many couples quarrel, break up, and soon reconcile. This kind of thing is quite common when people meet, and often happens due to misunderstandings. Doing what Cindy did and doing it after 14 years of marriage is not the same thing. John thought about it. Okay, it's true. Despite the similarities, what Cindy did was unforgivable. Answering the question, yes, if Marcia had found me a week later, explained what happened, and apologized, we would have reconciled. Hey, I loved her. It took me a couple of years to start dating again. I need another pill. Beth gave him another pain pill, and he fell asleep. Marcia returned home around 5 p.m., and John woke up when she kissed him. He woke up when their lips touched, smiled, and said, "This is violence. I am not able to resist in my condition." Marcia just smiled. "Well, I'm a lawyer. Sue me." "So why did you invite Cindy to dinner and make me cancel the party? Are you trying to get us back together?" "Whether you get back together or not depends only on the two of you. I have no right to my own opinion. I invited her because you two haven't spoken since all this happened. All this happened because there was no conversation. Her friend sent her several messages accusing her, and she acted without talking to you about it. A simple conversation, and all this could have been avoided. I know Jim Pearson is dealing with a divorce, but if you were my client, I would insist that you meet face to face." The breakdown in almost every love story begins with either a lack of communication or a misunderstanding. John didn't say anything. Cindy arrived at about 10 minutes to 7. She didn't knock. She just walked in and wanted John. Beth intercepted her. "Why didn't you knock? And don't even try to touch him." Cindy stopped and said, "John, can I talk to you in private?" "I am so sorry." John shook his head. "No. You cheated with 2 men, led to the breakup of 3 families, and left 5 children with incoming fathers. Because of your good friend Carol, my daughter was beaten and handcuffed. I was tasered, wounded, and handcuffed. There's no way I'm going to be alone with you. Besides, the house belongs to me under a prenuptial agreement. And Beth's right, you should have knocked. I'll pay for the lock change tomorrow." Marcia entered the room. "Everything seems to be going well so far. How are you, Cindy?" "Joan asked me to say hi." "Thanks for inviting me, Marcia. Tell Joan for me that she's a cruel person, but I'm sure you know that." "I'm not trying to hurt John." John practically screamed. "You've already done it." "I know. I just mean that I try not to do it anymore. I was stupid. I do not know why I did what I did. I went to Mexico to do God's work, and instead I did the devil's work. I'm not trying to get you to take me back. What I did was unforgivable. I just hope you don't hate me. If you need a housekeeper, or a cook, or anything else, or a nurse while you're recovering, I'd be happy to do it as a kind of penance. I already went to church last Sunday. I have publicly apologized for the terrible mess I made. Maybe I'll write a book, How to Ruin Your Life in 10 Minutes. What does 10 minutes mean?" Beth asked. "I'm a virgin, but I think making love should take longer." "That's true, but we definitely didn't make love. I just asked them to pose with me so I could get photos. I'm so sorry that I did this." I explained this to both wives. They both slapped me in the face. I don't blame them. I do not know if my words have any meaning for them. There was silence for a few seconds. Then John said, "It may matter to them, because they found out about it by accident. However, it doesn't really matter to me. Yes, I can't bear that you cheated, and it's cheating if you're naked and 2 naked men penetrate you, even if it was just for a moment. It was creepy to find out that my wife was cheating on me. But even worse, you deliberately hurt me as much as you could without even giving me a chance to defend myself. You got a message from someone that I'm cheating on you. Instead of contacting me, you sent me photographic proof of your infidelity, and with 2 men at once. This is very different from the case when someone tries to hide an affair and gets caught. Yes, an affair is certainly treason, but at the same time they do not try to hurt their spouse, but try to hide it. To flaunt it like you did means that you didn't want to be married anymore. Obviously, No self-respecting man will put up with this and will not take you back. Either you wanted to end the marriage and did what you needed to make it happen, or you have so little respect for me that you thought I would accept this situation. I assure you that if someone told me that you were cheating, I would either run into you or look for real evidence. Maybe I'd hire a private investigator. Besides, we've been married for quite some time. I doubt I would have believed it at all without real evidence. I loved you. I trusted you. You didn't feel the same way. Now I know that I will never be able to trust you with my heart again. I understand. I do not know what came over me to behave like this. Since I do not know why I did it, how can I promise that it will never happen again? Before I went on this journey, no one would have been able to convince me that I would ever behave like this. It's like I don't know myself. John thought for a moment. So, what are you going to do now? As you know, the prenup says that the spouse who cheats leaves the marriage with what he contributed to it, which in your case was $2,500. You'll need to get a job. Are there any prospects? Cindy shook her head. No. You know that I almost have a college degree where I majored in psychology. I should have gone to a psychologist instead of trying to become one. John laughed. I know that's right. First-year girls specializing in psychology are practically a cliché. An almost academic degree in psychology is not worth much. Hey, at least you don't have to worry about some previous employer giving you a bad recommendation. Maybe the pastor will write you a recommendation. Although it is unlikely. You also know that I've never worked. I have no idea what kind of job I can get. That's why I mentioned that I would be your housekeeper and cook. I have experience in this position. However, I may not be able to get a good recommendation from my former employer. I've ruined my career. Yes, it looks like a whirlpool. But I know your former employer. He's not a bad guy. Maybe he can help. John, you have absolutely no reason to help me. I didn't just burn this bridge. I blew it up. Let me think about it, and we'll talk after dinner. Marcia and Beth went all out for dinner. They ordered pizza and wings. Everyone ate on trays in the living room to be near John. As soon as they had eaten, John said, Okay, Cindy, here's what I'm going to do. As long as Uncle Jim and Marcia say it won't ruin my case. You know that I have built and own a large apartment complex on Lincoln Avenue. There are always vacant apartments there. I'll arrange for you to live there for free. Then we'll come up with a job for you. Marcia interrupted him. John, you don't want to cancel the prenup, so we'll need to sign and file for divorce before you do anything. I've already signed the papers and given them to Jim, Cindy said. Marcia smiled. Okay, I'll also draw up a document in which you permanently waive any future claims to anything from John in exchange for a one-time payment of $5,000. Is that okay, John? Of course. Maybe there are too many lawyers in my life. Now they're spending my money. Marcia smiled. I agree. Uncle Jim has to go. They continued chatting for another hour before Cindy went to her mom. Marcia told her that the document in which Cindy renounces any claims to John's assets will be ready in a couple of days. She asked Cindy which lawyer she should send it to. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have the money for this, and I don't think I need lawyers. I'm not disputing anything, so I just signed the papers in front of the notary at Uncle Jim's office. When the document is ready, just let me know and I will come to your office and sign it. My dear friend Joan will be able to testify. Marcia shook her head. This is not a good idea. I have a clear conflict of interest. There are two companies in my building. Tim, a senior partner at another firm, owes me some favors. I'll ask him to review the document I'm preparing and also get a copy of the divorce papers from Jim. Jim is a good guy, and so is John. So I'm sure the divorce papers are in order, but someone needs to go through them on your behalf. I'll call you tomorrow and give you the phone number after I make an appointment with Tim. As soon as Cindy left, Marcia said, I hate to admit it, but I like her. Yes, she was a fool for a while, but she's not a bad person. You have good taste in women. John laughed out loud. Of course. Well, except for the part where they lose their temper when they think I'm cheating. I know, John. I did almost the same thing, except for the bed part. You still love her, don't you? John looked sad. Of course. I've loved her for many years, but I can't stay married to her. I'm not going to stop the divorce. Are you going to get her a job? It could be at one of your companies or someone who owes you something. There is also a housekeeper/cook position. On a completely unrelated note, do Do you think you will ever be able to forgive me and love me again, despite the fact that I am a terrible hostess and cook even worse? I don't think I've ever stopped loving you. Defeat is for me, or victory, but in any case, I will get a wonderful daughter from this deal. Marcia looked thoughtful. I'm going to shock and insult the man I love. I love you. She loves you. And you love both of us. How would you feel if you and I were, say, married? Then, with my full blessing, Cindy could be your girlfriend. Beth practically screamed. Marcia, what did you do to my mom? My whole life is a lie. Marcia hugged Beth. I don't think you like this idea. I am so sorry. No, it's a brilliant idea. I'm just shocked that you suggested it. Although I'm not sure John and Cindy would do that. Well, John is a man, so it all depends on which head he thinks with. John shook his head. Well, Marcia, when you think outside the box, you really think outside the box. Why? Cindy came to my office because she heard that I'm the best family law lawyer in the county when it comes to reconciliation. I'm proud of it. In this case, the obvious stumbling block to getting you guys back together is my reluctance to break up with you now that I'm kind of back. That's all I could think of. I invited Cindy over tonight to see if we'd get along, because it wouldn't work if we were in conflict with her. It turns out that I like her, and I think she even likes me. Wouldn't that be a win for everyone? Maybe. However, I have a question. Do you like girls, threesomes, or both? Marcia had to sit down, and Beth was laughing like an idiot. I told you that he is a man and can think with a small head. You know that if you start this, then that's the end of it. Beth turned to John. Do you think you can handle 2 women? Beth, if there's one thing I've learned lately, it's that I can't handle even 1 woman, let alone 2. I can already imagine how they make up the schedule. You might as well stick a fork in me. I've had enough. Marcia bent down and planted a passionate kiss on his lips. I'm going to call Cindy and tell her to come back. Perhaps we should ask her about everything. Cindy returned about 40 minutes later. She just sat down on the couch and said, Well, why did I have to come back? I'll take care of it, Beth said. My mom has a suggestion. You initially approached her because of her reputation as a conciliator. Well, she came up with one option. So far, the 2 of you seem to like each other. You're both in love with Dad, and even though you both hurt him at different times, he still loves you both. Mom suggested that she marry Dad, and you can be a side chick at the same time. What do you think? This is the best offer you can get. Cindy started crying, and soon it all turned into sobs. Marcia and Beth sat on either side of her and held her. It took her a while to calm down. If John agrees, then I'm definitely fine. It's much better than losing it completely. We may need a calendar. John groaned. See, Beth, I told you so. I'm a dead man. A few months later, the divorce was final. John and Marcia didn't get married, but she and Beth moved in with John. John got the house across the street where Carol lived during the trial. All other lawsuits were settled for undisclosed amounts. Cindy moved into Carol's old house across the street as soon as John ordered his crews to renovate it. Cindy actually worked for John as a housekeeper/cook, and Marcia and Cindy made up some sort of schedule. It turns out that neither Marcia nor Cindy liked girls with girls. So in the end, it was a win-win for all 3 of them.